If you're watching this, you're likely one of the many people hoping that Samson, a Tyndalston Story, is a good GTA clone that'll tide us over until actual GTA comes out later this year. And, well, it's complicated. It's not complicated. But cards on the table, Samson is glitchy, it's janky, you're as likely to fail a mission from getting stuck in some decorative bin bags as you are from being beaten to death. I'm pretty sure it stressed me out so much that it's given me an eye infection. But these are all issues that can be fixed, but only with the kind of rigorous update schedule that beleaguered developer Liquid Swords is unlikely to be able to pull off. I mean, they can't fix this needs antibiotics. I just want to assure you, I'm wearing shades indoors for your benefit, not mine. So, in its current state at least, Samson is difficult to recommend. I'm going to do that annoying thing now that people in my line of work love doing. I'm going to contradict everything I just said with a big but, as in however, not my ass. But Samson offers such an interesting and unique take on the open world crime caper that it does warrant some consideration as a budget stopover on this last stretch of highway to the open world crime caper we all wish we were playing already. In short, Samson's got a touch of roguelike about it. A rogue light, maybe. Diet rogue, if you will. It's rogue-ish. For a game that looks in trailers like your mum knitted you a copy of GTA 4 instead of getting one from the shops, it scarcely qualifies as a GTA clone at all. For a start, it's not a power fantasy, eschewing the traditional petty criminal rags to underworld kingpin Rich's story for the oppressive conceit of almost insurmountable debt. Following a botched job in another city, protagonist Samson McRae is saddled with $100 grand to pay off via odd jobs. Strict daily targets must be adhered to, or the bailiffs are sent round to give you a kicking. Fail to raise cash quickly enough and you'll pay in blood. Your very own sister is being held hostage by the St. Louis shellsuit mafia as collateral, and has apparently been roped into doing their bookkeeping according to some weird exposition.
Punching numbers, tweaking accounts, the shit's below me.
She said blow me. Every day you wake up with 6 action points and a list of available jobs that pay a fixed amount of cash. Action points are the currency of time, and with a finite amount of time to make the daily quota, each job must be considered according to its risk. If, for example, you bite off more than you can chew and end up getting your head kicked in on a shakedown job, you'll wake up in a clinic having been relieved of all your takings for the day.
Next time be a little more careful, yeah?
A devastating setback in comparison to the GTA equivalent, where the financial consequences of emergency healthcare are so negligible it calls into question that series' very credentials as a satire of the American condition. Motoring, the quintessential symptom of the American condition and Grand Theft Auto's most carefree pastime, ceases to be a pure jolly in Samson's world. If you take one of the various driving jobs, you may end up spending half of your fee on car repairs. Yes, some basic vehicle management is required of you here. Not enough for this to qualify as some sort of dreary petrolhead sim, but enough to make you less cavalier about pranging the motor than you would be in other open world driving games. Your relationship with Samson's car really sets his story apart from that of GTA 4's Nico Bellic, to whom vehicles are about as disposable as printer cartridges or chewing gum. For all the trappings of poverty on display in Rockstar's worlds, very little of it actually matters. Samson, on the other hand, knows as much as the audience does how it feels to scrimp and save to keep their one and only vehicle running. And it is a gorgeous vehicle, the sort of ridiculously macho American muscle car that feels iconic even if you've never seen it before. A barely tamed animal of a thing with a throaty growl and a nitrous booster that somehow gets off the line slower than a Kia Picanto and corners like a public house. It's the exact sort of classic car that would be kept unadored by a guy who can't actually afford to keep under door a classic car. It's easy for a snowball effect to take hold on the deck debt if you have a particularly bad run. You can lose all your cash on the last job of the day, end up in arrears, then get battered by debt collectors the next morning, meaning you have to head out compromised having used your last jar of painkillers, unable to use your Sherman tank of a car in driving challenges because the repair bill is already an entire afternoon's work. It feels like a deliberate commentary on how crippling debt begats more crippling debt, a barely tweaked satire of the world on the other side of the screen, where the player is statistically of a cohort whose entire adult existence has been spent forced to chain smoke financial crisis after financial crisis. The cosmic joke that it is bloody expensive to be poor. It's a grim game born of grim circumstances, a vision of crumbling decay from a studio languishing at the pointy end of an industry in existential decline. Samson's unique, weirdly compelling structure wasn't the original plan. In fact, it was supposed to be something more readily associated with open world cities teeming with jackable wheels and whackable jackoffs. An action RPG, or an action game with RPG elements, an RPG light-ish. Curse these rigid boxes. In a recent interview with PC Gamer, Liquid Swords founder Christopher Sundberg lamented that this abrupt pivot from a straight-up GTA clone to a tightly focused roguelike light-ish with no guns and a relatively tiny city came from sheer economic necessity. In the post-COVID slump that followed the mid-COVID boom, publishers shut off the money hose and projects like Samson found themselves parched. In a wretched turn of events, half of the Liquid Swords team got laid off, leaving a much smaller crew to turn what they had into some kind of sellable game. In his words, "We laid off half the team, and those were our friends, and that hurt." The game that survives, in all likelihood, isn't as good or as polished as the game that might have been, especially considering the founder's track record at Avalanche Studios, but I'm willing to bet that it's now a far more memorable proposition, for better or worse. Anecdotally, it is prompting some marvellous reactions. It's given my colleague Matt Perslow the gift of being the closest thing we've ever gotten to a video game version of the Ryan Gosling getaway driving movie Drive, thanks to the inspired police evasion mechanic of being able to slip into a dark alley and switch off the car. Sometimes it seems to only work like 1 in 5 times that you actually try it, but it's cool that it's in there. In a group chat with Rock Paper Shotgun's esteemed Mark Warren, the Samson experience is compared to what it must feel like to be a minor character in GTA 4. An observation so good that it's annoying, and he's lucky I'm not stealing it, apart from now where I'm kind of stealing it. For me though, it evokes the golden age of daft experimental GTA clones, where there was this 10 to 15 year period of shocking innovation as every publisher scrabbled to stake a claim on the genre, like a load of mid-sized Western nations calling bagsies on ever thinner slices of Antarctica. We had everything from Red Faction Guerrilla to Mad Max, from The Simpsons Hit and Run to Sleeping Dogs. Its closest and most recent analogue is probably last year's The Precinct, a GTA-esque police procedural that is also rogue adjacent and made by a very small team. To be clear, Samson isn't as good as any of those games, but Liquid Swords have stumbled into the same kind of interesting genre twist that defines those titles, where in the absence of anything approaching the resources to mount a serious challenge to Grand Theft Auto's intricate hyperrealism and Hollywood bombast, they focus on making an alternative proposition. These games thrive on doing things that GTA simply wouldn't ever do, be it fully destructible environments, or a setting outside of the US like Hong Kong, or in the US but a cartoon like Springfield, or a colonized Mars in the far future where you play a demolitions expert in the space IRA, or a daft mechanic like car combat that plays like a brawler on wheels. Samson's unique modifier is its rogue-adjacent structure, the framework upon which rests a debt management metagame that drives the whole experience. Boiled down to one word, Samson's ace in the hole is that it has consequences, real stakes where the constant looming threat of losing an entire day's progress has a real physiological effect on you that you rarely get from a criminal power fantasy where within 40 seconds of losing a fight with the LSPD, you end up back on the street with a full health bar and a bazooka still inexplicably stuffed in your front jeans pocket. If you want to keep any weapons handy in Samson, by the way, you've got to keep them in your trunk. And we're talking like crowbars and hammers. There's no guns in Samson. It's so refreshing to be cutting about with a boot full of hammers, battering guys for money, just like we used to in this country back when we were still real men, normal men. To be clear, I'm not saying GTA 7 should be a roguelike, and I'm definitely not suggesting that a trend-setting behemoth like Rockstar North needs to copy anyone's homework. What Samson does do though is provide open-world crime caper examples of how deeply felt consequences for failure can connect the player to its world in an authentic way that the naughty boy fantasy playground of Grand Theft Auto, even back when it was doing riffs on The Wire in 2008, rarely achieves. Like a balding set of tyres, Rockstar often leaves a lot of friction to be desired. Even when they were doing a 60-hour epic about a guy dying of tuberculosis, the complications were only seen in the narrative, not felt in the bones of the thing. Like, I am a well-documented, card-carrying, flawed game enjoyer, and as one of those, I find Samson deeply fascinating. Within this broken mess, there are bold ideas that would make for an interesting twist if deployed in a better, more resourced project. And you can certainly marvel at the gumption it must have taken just to get this thing over the finish line in today's economic environment. But for all the ways it can be admired, Samson remains impossible to recommend. The end result is like going to Hooters for wings. It's cheap, it's stupid, it's a bit sleazy, and you'd be embarrassed to tell your friends about it. And there are plenty of other places to get wings. You can get wings anywhere. As ever, like and subscribe and stick with IGN. And for those of you who've genuinely been asking, there is a playlist now of all the videos I've done for the channel to date. It's called the Trinker Perspective, and there'll be a link in the description. So by all means, check that out. You'd make me very happy if you do so, and I need the boost right now, let's face it. Just to be clear, by the way, I've never been to Hooters. That's all anecdotal. I don't know what Hooters is like inside. I've never had the wings or anything. I saw it once across the road from E3 and I didn't go in.